Chapter 17. We've all got to die of something. The creature emerged, stepping out of the enormous chrysalis, crumbling its shell-like prison, with seemingly meek and elegant hands, its long legs easily managing the transition from tabletop to floor in a single bound. Wrapped around its legs were tribal-like markings that were easily mistaken for tattoos. The pattern swirled from the leg and flowed down around the ankle, like a helter-skelter, until it reached the being's skinny black toenails with white tips. Once fully materialized, the clump of satin-like material on its back unfolded rapidly, like someone shaking a folded blanket, and a set of fragile, exquisitely decorated wings sprang forth. As the light from the room shone through the many shades of browns, oranges and reds, Blaine thought how the beautiful glow reminded him of the light shining through a grand church stained glass window at sunset. Draped like the finest silk, the wings hugged and clung to the curves of the figure's shape, creating a chic, one-of-a-kind outfit. Turning, the 6-foot-high entity moved to face the pilfering pupil, whisking its white blonde perfectly straight hair that framed its face like a model in a shampoo commercial. The artistic markings seemed to travel along and up the being's body, wrapping around its neck, resembling a black lace choker, and then continuing up one side of the perfectly flawless face, until it reached the same markings that were on its eyelids. As the individual opened its rich brown eyes, even the whites of the eye had little black ink dots that gave the impression of many mini irises. The long lashes flashed like paper fans, and were fixated on the boy. A vision of beauty stood before Blaine. The young woman, who looked to be in her early 20s, watched him, as he stared starry-eyed. He inspected her from top to bottom, and a wide grin enveloped his face. The mysterious divine being summoned him towards her. With her perfectly manicured black fingernails with white tips, matching the colour of her toes, she beckoned him to come hither, as if he were a fish on the end of a line. Blaine drew ever closer, like she was reeling him in on invisible threads. Reaching the stretch of 3 tables where the popular kids sat, she ensnared him against the desktop, with one arm either side of his body, and Blaine bent over backwards as she leant over him. With her nose about 10 centimetres away from his chest, she inhaled deeply, while her face made its way up, travelling along his neck, and soon they were face to face, gazing into each other's eyes. Pouting full plump powder-pink lips whispered soft words of warning to the giddy 15-year-old boy. Like a siren, she sang, "You do realise, being with me will very much be the death of you." Blaine, in a trance-like state, ogled the goddess-like apparition before him, as she smiled adoringly, and he goofily rambled. "Well, we've all got to die of something," and his broad smile was fixed back in place, as the woman continued to breathe in his scent. Retracing her steps back down towards the nape of his neck, their eyes met again. "So, are you the new art teacher?" Blaine muttered dreamily. She beamed back. "Yes. In a manner of speaking, I am." Placing a slender finger to Blaine's lips, she hushed him. She glided the tip around the shape of his mouth, all the while whistling the sound of a soothing breeze, making Blaine absent-minded. For a brief moment, she stopped her tranquil, intoxicating hum. "You are my alpha male. You are my valiant, powerful hunter," she heralded. Sitting bolt upright, Blaine snapped out of his seductive state in an instant, almost headbutting the enthralling temptress. Leaning backwards in surprise, the woman was unable to figure out why the boy awoke from his daydream. Attempting to regain eye contact, she was met by a barrage of hostility. "Not again! You have got to be kidding me!" Blaine fumed. "Hunter this, hunter that. I've had it up to here," Blaine yelled, pointing to the tip of his head. "What is it that's so damn special about Hunter?" The door to the art room flung open, and the shape of 2 boys, one with blonde hair and one with dark brown, fought their way in, becoming stuck, sandwiched under the arch of the door, as they struggled before they entered, being propelled forward, catapulting themselves into the room and sliding along the floor. Looking at the twin in front of her, and then the one collapsed on the floor, and then back again, she noticed the trademark mohawk that only Hunter sported, and the loving eyes that once beamed with admiration at Blaine narrowed into slits of concentrated anger at the sight of duplicitous deception. With her mantle slipping, Blaine noticed the difference in her disposition, and carefully with haste backed away towards the door, where his brother and best friend lay in a heap on the ground. "You lied to me, you manipulative, second-rate male specimen," the woman hissed. "This is unforgivable," all the while stroking the sides of her face with her elongated nails. As the self-closing door was about to shut, Chloe entered, storming into the room, with her arm leading the way, pointing a finger straight at Hunter, shaking with a nervous yell. "Well, your mohawk is crooked, so that makes you look like a wonky shark." As the worst comeback ever spilled from Chloe's mouth, she stopped stunned as she saw the mystifying woman observing her with such intrigue and intensity, tilting her head rapidly from side to side. "I have to cut back on the sweets," Chloe judged. "I'm clearly tired and having some sort of sugar hallucination." Mason and Hunter got up and dusted themselves off. "Oh, she's real all right. We see her too," Mason reported. Blaine, still in a strop, defended himself. "You were the one flirting with me. I never instigated anything." "Wait a minute," Hunter said, shocked. "She tried to hit on you? That makes no sense at all." "She thought I was you," Blaine begrudgingly replied. Hunter shrugged his shoulders, nodding. "Well, when you put it like that, it makes perfect sense." "Who is she?" Blaine begged his friends. As the strangely alluring female gazed hypnotically into Hunter's eyes, he was unaffected by her entrancing stare. He revealed in a gasp of disbelief, "It's Miss Cockleton." Squinting and sensing a spark of familiarity from deep inside, he notified, "It's definitely her, but something's different." "Really, you think?" Mason answered sarcastically, giving him an obvious look. Blaine added, "What gave it away? The fact she doesn't look over 60 anymore, or the giant wings?" The rivals both turned to Blaine, and his brother asked inquisitively, "She has wings?" They paused. "That is so cool." The newly evolved Miss Cockleton gracefully glided over, swaying her curvaceous body as she sauntered, far more elegantly than she had ever done before, and sultrily posed. "Très bon! So tell me, boys, how do you like my new look?" Flabbergasted, the three boys nodded at each other in unison, all expressing dumb grins of approval and multi-jumbled slurs of compliments. "You look good. Yeah, years younger. Cracking set of, wings." Chloe was enraged by the dumbfounded boy's stupidity and scorned, "What are you doing, you idiots? She's the one who tried to assault Olivia. You know, Hunter, your girlfriend, and she's probably planning to attack us too." Waving her words away dismissively, as if they were smoke, Miss Cockleton corrected, "My dear feeble child, I'm a lover, not a fighter, but you do have a point." And then, in a nonchalant manner, she continued, smiling, "But I'm going to feed you to my babies." Taken aback, Hunter inquired, "What, to your cats?" "Oh no, my alpha male. I ate those," she said, stunning the students. "Our babies will dominate this fertile planet. You will be the father of a new world order." Traumatized, he verified, "So you're not going to feed me to our kids?" Shaking her head, Miss Cockleton truthfully spoke. "No, my sweet, not you." Wiping his forehead with relief, Hunter relaxed, but then stiffened when she added, "I'm going to eat you myself. I told you, you have a magnificent head upon your shoulders. I'll be eating that while we consummate. An expecting mother has to keep her strength up." Grossed out, Hunter strongly objected, "I don't think so, Grandma Robinson," and concluded Miss Cockleton was living up to her earlier statement that people did leave school completely different from when they started, and declared, "I'm leaving to call pest control so they can lock your freaky backside in a butterfly sanctuary for the insane." "You're not going anywhere," the transformed art teacher instructed, and as Hunter left to go, Miss Cockleton's jaw unhinged and then split, separating into 3 mandibles, brandishing a sharp, jagged set of flesh-tearing teeth. The 4 pupils froze, rooted to the spot, carefully trying not to make any sudden movements to startle her. Chloe glanced around the classroom, looking for a nearby shadow to escape into, as Miss Cockleton let out a blood-curdling cry that bounded and echoed around the room. Like a slap in the face, the slow, self-closing fire door to the art room slammed shut, snapping them from their frightened state, and Abigail Newman's football banner rippled with the aftershock of the vibrations. As the light danced around the shiny silvery material, Miss Cockleton was captivated by the rainbow luminosity turning and focused all her attention away from her prey, trying to reach out and grasp the tantalizing and fascinating colours. Noticing their chance to escape, Mason lunged for the handle, and the 4 teenagers, without saying a word, ran for their lives. Running along the upper corridor, they heard another furious high-pitched screech, followed by the gnashing of razor-like teeth coming from behind them. The encouraging Darwin destroyer banner must have stopped moving, allowing Miss Cockleton to realise what had happened to her victims. She became more enraged, with each bone-chilling shriek. They had almost reached the adjoining corridor that led to the science block, when a wave of darkness from overhead descended upon the group, which disappeared as quickly as it had appeared. A loud fluttering sound cut through the air, much like the noise from helicopter blades at full spin. Hunter was almost at the door when he skidded to a halt, squeaking as the rubber from his expensive Italian-made shoes glided over the newly polished floor, leaving as much distance between the entrance and himself as he possibly could, as Miss Cockleton ceremoniously swooped down, blocking their escape. Rewrapping her soft, luxurious wings back around her body, she now addressed them once again, and using her sweet, enticing words and beautiful features, she tried once more to snare Hunter with her verbal drug. As Hunter continued to retreat, she knew her efforts were useless. "Well, if you students will not stop running in the halls, I will have no option but to put you all in detention." Displaying the underside of her toned, ghostly white arms, on each wrist a small vertical slit appeared and widened as lengthened bone shards slipped out and produced 2 hidden dagger weapons measuring around 30 centimeters. Raising the previously concealed blades, they resonated as they came close to contact with each other, producing a painful amplified audio feedback sound. Mimicking a conductor, she held them above her head like batons, but instead of waving them in the air, she struck them together hard, like a couple of cymbals. With the sound of a pair of humongous tuning forks, they vibrated so quickly that they blurred. The air distorted between them, forming a twisted mangled mess of frequencies that gathered in size as the musical lances separated further and further from each other. Now the size of an inflatable space hopper, she held it between the daggers like a giant pair of chopsticks. Her attractive face with faultless features split open to reveal her ugly, terrifying second set of demonic teeth, and as if she were merely blowing bubbles from a hoop, she sang and held a single note, which repelled it, and the cloud of sound shot off like a cannonball. Mason and Hunter threw themselves along the wall, ripping classmates' artwork from it in the process. Chloe and Blaine jumped in the other direction at the banister rails. They all managed to avoid the sphere of sound, and watched as it continued until it hit the wall and dispersed, making the solid wall ripple like it was a reflection in a pond. The black rubbish bag laid scattered open on the floor, with the shed skin suit revealed. "I thought I hid that disgusting item," the art teacher said as she raised her hands again to channel another attack. Mason cried, "Run! It takes her time to charge one of those things." Fleeing towards the art room, they cornered sharply, descending the stairs. Mason grabbed Chloe and speedily guided her down the steps, while Hunter overtook, bounding, missing out many stairs as he leapt. Reaching the bottom first, Hunter called, "Come on, this way!" Chloe and Mason joined the eldest twin, but as he turned to exit through the doors that led to the staff car park, Miss Cockleton gracefully landed, halting their getaway once more. She was about to charge an orb of sound. Blaine was almost there when he stood on a splatter of butter icing and, as if he were a ski jumper, launched himself into the air and landed, crashing and rolling until he stopped. "Run!" Blaine implored, as he ran in the opposite direction. Mason, refusing to leave his friend, grabbed and picked up Blaine so he was stood upright, and then the pair followed Hunter and Chloe to the school's most southern block. Ready to launch another attack, Miss Cockleton stepped into the long bowling alley-like corridor and took aim at the human skittles, knowing she had got them now. The corridor was far narrower compared to the great stairway, and the former art teacher took her time widening her arms fully outstretched, and made the next projectile twice the size, sending it speedily down, almost touching all 4 sides of the passage, with an effortless puff from her lungs. Blaine heard the piercing screech of the attack closing in, and looked back to see the boulder-sized blast. "Hurry up! We need to reach the next room now!" Hunter and Chloe flung open the double doors to safety, but the attack was gaining fast, and, with nowhere to take shelter, he knew they both weren't going to make it. With cheers of encouragement from Chloe and Hunter, Blaine dived, pushing Mason from behind, escalating his speed and knocking him clean out of the way into the next room, as Hunter slammed one of the doors, breaking apart the prolific ball of sound, but not before it ricocheted and broke apart, making contact with Blaine's left shoulder. He felt a strange sensation reverberate down his arm, all the way to the tips of his fingers, and back up again. When all had entered, Hunter shut the second door and scanned the room for any items that could be useful. Grabbing a mop, a lane rope, and an extendable metal pole from a small cupboard with a sturdy metal door, he threaded the wooden mop and pole through the door's handles, making a barricade, and intertwined the lane rope like a serpent, creating a figure of 8, sealing the door between them and the intruder. Concerned for his brother, Hunter asked, "Blaine, are you hurt?" "I'm fine," Blaine reassured, experiencing an electrical shock sensation shooting up and down his arm, but in seconds his arm had gone completely numb and began to feel rather heavy. "The fire exit!" Chloe cried, pointing to it as she ran, and then colliding with it as the door refused to budge. Blaine's arm seemed even heavier now, so much so he had to temporarily kneel down and rest his injured arm on his knees. Only then was he able to root around the pocket of his shorts and throw her the caretaker's stolen collection of keys. Scrambling to find the right key and expressing disgruntlement with each failure, she achieved success after her 4th attempt, but her hope-filled heart sank when she attempted to push the door open, only to discover it was chained shut with a heavy chain and a padlock from the outside. Scrambling to the floor, she tried to squeeze through the crack, but it was barely big enough for Chloe to fit her skinny arm through, let alone anything else. She peered through the gap, and she screamed for help, shouting for Mr. Skinner to hear her plea and come running to her aid, but with the sound of the wind and rain, it was futile, as her words got lost, blown away with the breeze. Panicking, her grey eyes danced around the room and began to tear up. Soon water streamed, spilling down her freckled cheeks, and she whined, begging for forgiveness. "I'm sorry, guys. I'm just so very sorry." Unable to understand the reason for her deep, sincere apology, Hunter watched her take off at high speed, flinging open the door to the small closet, jumping inside and swiftly shutting the sturdy door behind her. "Oh no, you don't, you little coward," Hunter roared. "We all have to stand and fight together." As he swung the door open in a fit of rage, it groaned as the stiff metal hinges made a grinding sound. He was gobsmacked as he reached inside to pull her out by the scruff of her neck, only to find the tiny space empty. She had completely disappeared. Padding down the walls of the closet, he began to kick, checking to make sure there were no fake walls or optimistic hidden passages to freedom. "Get back here now, Chloe Draper!" he yelled. Leaning over to his left side as if he was a hunchback, Blaine's arm now felt like it was made of lead, and he grasped his right hand to his left elbow for support. As he staggered around, he called to his friend, but he was not responsive. "Mason!" he hollered again, with still no response. A furious Hunter moved in close to see what was wrong with his rival. He was fine. He had not been hit by Miss Cockleton's pulsating projectile, and he had not been so badly hurt from being thrown to the floor by Blaine that he couldn't manage to get to his feet. Mason just froze, like a statue, completely oblivious to the sounds of concern going on around him. Instead, he just looked forward, perturbed. With all the confusion and horror, Mason had forgotten where he was going, and he had blindly followed the group. Reflective lights danced on the ceiling above his face. He turned pale, and his fists clenched, turning each knuckle bright white, as the school swimming pool was directly in front of the boy with thalassophobia.